Shadow Case Files. Every case has a shadow. Every shadow hides the truth. Let's begin. Every March, Daytona Beach changes. 500,000 people roll in for Bike Week. Bikes, leather, chrome, the whole scene. For most folks, it's just a week of letting loose and having a good time. But on the night of March 5th into the early morning of March 6th, 2022, two regular people who came for that same feeling never made it back to their house. Their names were Brenda and Terry Van Aultman. They were found just a couple blocks from the ocean, right by the brand new home they'd just bought. Bikes knocked over next to them, blood all over the grass. Their throats had been cut, and they'd both been stabbed multiple times. The first responders who got there actually thought it might have been some kind of accident at first, until they looked closer and realized what they were looking at. It wasn't a robbery. It wasn't some fight that got out of hand. It was something that came out of nowhere and picked them at random. And it left the whole town asking the same question that still hangs over Daytona Beach. To really get why this one hit so hard, you have to know who Brenda and Vann actually were. Not just the names in the police reports, but the people smiling in all the family pictures. Brenda Jean Pendleton Aultman was born right here in Florida on March 18, 1966. She graduated from Middleburg High School in 1985 and spent her life making things better for the people around her. She had a real eye for design and loved turning houses into homes. For years, she worked at Goodwill of North Florida, most recently as assistant manager at the Palm Coast store. Her coworkers all said the same thing. She was the one who remembered your name, your kids' names, and exactly how you liked your coffee. She was gentle, generous to a fault, and had this way of making everyone she met feel seen, funny, selfless, and just fiercely loving. When her daughter Sarah was little, Brenda basically raised her on her own and was both mom and dad. Sarah put it best later. From the day I was born, she was my mom and my dad because I grew up without a dad. Brenda loved the beach more than almost anything, and she loved hunting for little things that would make their house feel just right. Simple stuff that made her happy. Then, 9 years before that night, things got even better. She met Terry Van Aultman, and they clicked. Van worked as a supervisor at Amazon. He was steady, easygoing, the kind of guy who made everyone around him feel lighter. To Sarah, he became the stepdad she never knew she needed. And to her little girl, Nico Autumn Blake, he was just Papa Van. They moved to Daytona Beach and did what a lot of people only dream about. They bought their dream house, one single block from the ocean. They could ride their bikes every day, grill for the neighbors, watch the sun go down, and just live. They were doing everything right. After nights out, they'd walk or bike home instead of driving. Bike Week was their thing every year, a chance to feel young again and be part of all that energy. Here's how that last night went, put together from surveillance video, 911 calls, and what the killer himself later admitted. Saturday, March 5th. Bike Week is in full swing. Brenda and Van spent the evening on Main Street, just soaking it all in like everyone else. Around 1 a.m., they decided it was time to head home. They got on their bikes and started the short ride through the quiet neighborhood streets off A1A, down North Wild Olive Avenue toward Riverview Boulevard. Around 1:30 a.m., it happened. Fast and brutal. Over in minutes, they were stabbed over and over. Their throats were cut. Brenda's shirt and bra were pulled up, one leg of her pants yanked down. Van's hat, glasses, and even some of his hair ended up scattered under the overturned bikes. Their wallets, phones, everything of value, left completely untouched. No shell casings, no big signs of a fight, no clear reason. Just two people who loved each other, riding home the safest way they knew how. The police threw everything at it right away. Over 100 hours in the first few days alone. Surveillance from houses and businesses in the area showed a guy in a black cowboy hat hanging around before and after. He'd come into Daytona by bus from Orlando the day before the murders and left the next day. A clear photo from a witness helped lock it in. Tips started pouring in. The same day they released the footage publicly, the net started closing. He confessed. Everything he said matched what the evidence showed. The medical examiner ruled both deaths homicide, multiple stab wounds and cuts to the neck. Clothes taken from his apartment in Orlando, possible weapons, blood-spattered digital records of his movements, and the surveillance video that put him right behind them in those final minutes. No DNA surprises, no alibis, nothing that didn't line up. What made the whole thing almost impossible to wrap your head around is this. The guy's name was Jean Robert Messine, and he had almost no criminal record, just some old drug arrests in Orange County from 2019 that got dropped. No connection to Brenda or Vann at all. No gang stuff, no history of violence. The prosecutors said it over and over. He picked them completely at random during one of the busiest weekends of the year, for no reason anyone could figure out. No robbery, no argument, no grudge, just that. On March 29, 2022, a grand jury indicted him on 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder with a weapon. The state said they were going for the death penalty. The legal process dragged on for more than 3 years. Competency hearings, arguments about mental illness and intellectual disability, back and forth about whether he could even stand trial. Defense tried to get the death penalty off the table. Prosecutors kept pushing. Then, in a surprise move, Messine pleaded no contest to both counts. The death penalty was taken off the table. Judge Elizabeth A. Blackburn sentenced him to life in prison without parole. His lawyers read a short statement from him. "I am very sorry for killing the Aultmans. I have suffered from mental illness for a long time. I offer this information not as an excuse, but as a reason. I did a bad thing, but that is not who I normally am. I know that your family will be hurting forever. I'm truly sorry." The family finally got some legal closure after all that time. But no sentence and no apology could bring back the bike rides at sunset, the laughter, or the future they'd planned. Brenda and Vann are remembered exactly the way they lived, kind, happy, regular people who were living their version of the Florida dream. Their daughter Sarah, son Joshua, granddaughter Nico, and the rest of the family are still carrying on, changed forever, but doing their best to honor what they had. The Daytona community stepped up too. More lights, more police during future bike weeks, a little more watching out for each other. Sarah set up a GoFundMe that helped cover funeral costs and gave the family some breathing room in those first awful weeks. Messine will spend the rest of his life in a Florida prison. The case is closed. The killer is caught. In the legal sense, justice was served, but some questions don't go away. Why them? Why that night, on that quiet street? What was going through his mind? And in a city that welcomes hundreds of thousands of visitors every year, how do you keep the people who just want to ride home safe? Brenda and Vann Aultman were loved. They were happy. They were home. And on one regular bike week night, all of that was taken from them for no reason at all. May their laughter always be louder than the engines.